Right now on Morning News Now, a touching tribute to late Senator Lindsey Graham on Capitol Hill after his unexpected passing. Later today, Graham's sister, Darlene Graham-Nordone, set to be sworn in as his replacement. Her appointment just hours after President Trump recommended she serve the remainder of his term.
I think this is what Lindsey would have wanted, and I plan to honor him in this way. Lindsey has always been there for me, and now I will be there for him.
Meanwhile, FBI agents seen at Graham's Washington home as we learn more about his death from a preliminary report. Developing this morning, escalation in the Middle East. The U.S. carrying out a third straight night of strikes against Iran. Now President Trump saying he's reinstating a naval blockade on Iranian ports and charged ships for protection along the Strait of Hormuz. We'll bring you the latest. Also developing flooding and fires this morning. Another severe storm system taking aim at the south and the northeast. Plus tens of millions of Americans waking up to heat alerts ahead of what could be a record-breaking heat wave. Angie is here with her forecast. And maxed out mental health experts sounding the alarm on those viral maxing trends. We'll unpack the problem and why doing too much of anything, even if it's a good thing, could have the opposite effect. Good morning. Thanks so much for kicking off your Tuesday with us. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe's off, so it's just us this morning. We're going to begin our show with the aftermath of South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham's sudden death. Graham's sister, Darlene, is preparing to take over his seat in the Senate. With President Trump's blessing, she's expected to be sworn in later today as his temporary replacement. South Carolina's governor appointed her yesterday to serve out her brother's term, which ends in January. It all comes as we learn new information about Graham's final hours after FBI agents visited his D.C. home yesterday. It's part of an investigation into his death, though no foul play is suspected. NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor joins us. Sahil, good morning. So let's start with the appointment of Graham's sister, Darlene. Tell us about her and why she was chosen. Is it like more of a symbolic move, or will she be expected to carry out what would have been his duties?
Well, Savannah, it's more symbolic than anything else. She is expected to be sworn in at 2:30 p.m. today, a pretty rapid turnaround. But under the Senate's rules, with the governor appointing, they can do this. She's not going to have Senator Lindsey Graham's chairmanship of the Budget Committee. She's not going to have any of his seniority, but she is expected to vote reliably with the GOP, with Senator Graham. I think that's sort of what she was alluding to when she said she now gets to be there for him at this time. She also doesn't get to be the person in President Trump's ear influencing policy the way Lindsey Graham was. But they do need someone to fill out this term for the next several months until voters in South Carolina pick someone for the next 6 years. One of the reasons she was chosen is that she was relatively non-controversial, too. The governor was supportive of her. President Trump was supportive of her for this appointment. Tim Scott, South Carolina's other senator, was supportive. And this has the advantage of staying out of what could be a fairly crowded primary for the Republican nomination to serve in this seat for the next 6 years. Savannah, she did not, Graham's sister, Darlene, did not have a long paper trail of being involved in politics, but she did cut ads being very supportive of her brother for this position.
Sahil, what more are we learning about Graham's final few hours and this FBI investigation also into his death, seeing those agents at his D.C. home?
So we've learned that this all went down Saturday night. Lindsey Graham was complaining of chest pains. We now know that it was a staffer, per our understanding, who called 911. From there, things unraveled quite quickly. Graham's office cited a preliminary finding from the medical examiner saying this was aortic dissection due to a condition he had called ASCVD. Medical experts we've spoken to say this can lead to an aortic rupture without warning, which can suddenly be fatal, which appears very consistent with what did happen. Now, in terms of the FBI investigation, two law enforcement sources familiar with that scene have told NBC News that this is simply out of an abundance of caution, that there's no new evidence they've seen for foul play. Of course, those questions arose after FBI Director Kash Patel tweeted about this. The FBI doesn't generally get involved in natural deaths due to heart failure. So, of course, it raised some people's antennas, but it appears that law enforcement is downplaying that element of it.
All right. And Sahil, also to switch gears here while we have you, I do want to ask about a congressional hearing. It's coming up today. It's involving two Supreme Court justices, Elena Kagan and Amy Coney Barrett. Why are they appearing?
They are appearing before a House Appropriations Subcommittee to talk about the budget request for the Supreme Court and, most importantly, court security. This budget request includes $920 million, an increase of nearly $30 million from fiscal 2026. The main reason is security. That includes more security for protective guard services, security systems and equipment for the courthouses. They're also asking for money for this vulnerability management program, which includes tools to remove personally identifiable information of judges from available sources online. This all comes in the wake of increased threats to judges and justices. Savannah.
All right, Sahil Kapoor, thank you so much for kicking us off this hour. Well, in Maine, there is growing outrage after ICE agents shot and killed a man during an attempted traffic stop. Maine Senator Angus King says he was informed by the Department of Homeland Security that the man who was killed was not the target of an ICE warrant. This is the second fatal shooting involving ICE agents in the last week. Parts of the incident were caught on camera. NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin has that video. Some viewers may find this upsetting.
New videos out revealing key moments connected to a deadly ICE-involved shooting in Maine. In one video, you see a white vehicle driving in a circle as an agent attempts to grab the door. It's unclear if this was before or after shots were fired. In another video, you can hear that fire. And in this video, you see what appears to be federal agents pulling out the limp body of a man, his hands then placed behind his back. In a stunning development, Independent Senator Angus King issued a statement saying the victim of today's federal law enforcement shooting was not the target of the warrant. King's spokesperson telling NBC News the Secretary of Homeland Security called King to tell him the news. Minutes later, DHS released this statement saying in part, ICE was conducting targeted surveillance on the last known address of an individual with a final order of removal. An individual who is not here legally departed the residence vehicle. Quote, the vehicle attempted to flee the scene and fearing for public safety, an officer discharged his weapon, adding the driver of the vehicle was struck and passed away from his injuries. An immigrant rights organization told NBC News it identified the man killed as a 26-year-old from Colombia, adding he was authorized to work in the United States, having been issued a social security number. News of the fatal shooting sent scores of protesters marching through the streets of Maine. NBC News reached out to Maine's Attorney General for comment on Senator King's latest statement. They previously said a deportation officer would be placed on leave per standard protocol. Erin McLaughlin, NBC News.
Well, President Trump is facing new legal pushback this morning over his settlement with the IRS. In a 56-page order, a federal judge in Florida said the president sought to, quote, manipulate the judicial process with his $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS and Treasury Department earlier this year. President Trump alleged they failed to take the necessary steps to prevent a former IRS subcontractor from improperly disclosing his tax returns and those of his sons to news outlets. Trump's attorneys later withdrew the case. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche announced the sides had reached an agreement. This is what established, you might remember, that controversial nearly $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund, and then shield the president and his family from IRS audits. NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos joins us now from London with more on this. Danny, good morning. So in her order here, the judge, it's U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams, she wrote that the nature of the suit was, here's her quote, an attempt to use the court to provide some legitimacy to confer immunity to people and entities affiliated with the president. So walk us through what she found most at issue here.
The main issue for the judge is that there may not have been a case or controversy. You can't sue yourself. That is not a controversy. Savannah cannot sue Savannah, and similarly, the government cannot sue the government. And in this case, it was essentially Trump versus the IRS. And the evidence that this was not a case or controversy was actually in the facts, because what happened was the government filed suit, the executive branch filed suit, and then nobody answered, because who's going to be the one on the government defense side to enter an answer and actually oppose the president? Not me, says the other government attorney. So the judge saw that and said, this is not a true Article III case or controversy. And even though the parties, once they realized that the judge was probably going to have a problem with this arrangement, they voluntarily dismissed the case. They filed a document saying, you know what, we've reached an agreement, we're out. But the judge said, not so fast. even though you voluntarily dismissed it, I still have jurisdiction over this, and I can issue sanctions and do other things.
Danny, is she sort of saying in essence that this lawsuit was a rigged game, kind of the way that they were able to get these two things on either side, the anti-weaponization fund and that shielding?
She didn't rule on the underlying settlement agreement. But yes, she pointed out the fact that this was essentially, in her view, an effort to essentially sanction immunity and other benefits for people by this lawsuit, essentially by an entity against itself.
Danny, Judge Williams ordered sanctions also here against a number of people involved in this. It includes Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, Associate Attorney General Stanley Woodward. Blanche is set to face the Senate tomorrow for his confirmation hearing as Attorney General. Do sanctions, though, affect them professionally in any way? Could that have any bearing on what we see tomorrow?
Sure. You have sanctions and then you have attorney discipline. And what the judge did with Blanche and Woodward was actually take that order and send it to the respective bars. So, for example, for Blanche, that would be New York. For Woodward, that would be the D.C. bar. And then the professional responsibility folks, they would review it, and then they can impose discipline. For some of the other attorneys, there were actual sanctions. For example, thou cannot appear in this district for a certain period of time. So the court has power to issue or mete out sanctions on its own. But then also when you refer for discipline, you're not actually imposing sanctions. You're saying to the respective bar, hey, take a look at this guy. You may want to discipline him. And that is a scary thing for us attorneys, because discipline can range from a public censure all the way to disbarment. And disbarment is the figurative death penalty for us attorneys.
Danny, this is the latest example of a judge calling out President Trump in some way for his use of the judicial system to sort of punish his perceived enemies, or maybe like take a step in the power that he has. But does this order from Judge Williams carry any real consequences for the president beyond what we're seeing here?
Well, I think you pointed out already one of the most spiritual consequences is that Todd Blanche is now heading into a congressional hearing with the specter of this order hanging over him. And you can bet that he's going to hear questions about it. And of course, as I mentioned before, there is nothing scarier to an attorney than the idea, even though the judge herself didn't impose those sanctions or actually sanction Blanche, but rather send it to the bar. That is not something that by just sending that over to the bar, that could create some real problems for the attorneys.
All right, Danny Savalos from London for us. Thank you, Danny, very much. Well, in the Middle East, tensions between the U.S. and Iran continue to escalate less than 1 month after both sides agreed to a truce. Late yesterday, U.S. Central Command said it wrapped up a third consecutive night of strikes on Iran. Those strikes came hours after President Trump announced he will reimpose a naval blockade on Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz. Well, in response, Iran's military said it fired missiles at an American airbase in Jordan. NBC News Washington reporter Alice Barr joins us now with the latest details here. Alice, good morning. So what are we hearing from Central Command about this latest wave of strikes from the U.S. and that Iranian response?
Savannah, good morning. CENTCOM says this was a 5-hour mission that finished just after 10 o'clock last night and included strikes on military targets across Iran, including coastal defense systems and missile and drone sites. And CENTCOM again said the goal here is to further degrade Iran's ability to attack commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran fired back against U.S. Gulf allies, including Bahrain, and also attacked 2 tankers in the strait that are linked to the UAE, killing one person on board from India and injuring 8 other people. Remember, Iran is trying to control the strait, and its Revolutionary Guard said that the tankers had ignored repeated warnings. And now the UAE is threatening to retaliate against Iran, which of course could widen the conflict just as it's ramping back up.
Alice, it's been nearly 24 hours also since President Trump announced he would reimpose that blockade on Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz. This has obviously just become this linchpin of this conflict. Walk us through the specifics and what we know about what is happening in the strait right now.
Yeah, it really does all come down to the Strait of Hormuz and to a power struggle over who's going to have control over it. President Trump said yesterday that the blockade was going to go back into effect to stop only Iran's ships or ships of its customers that are coming and going, with the intent to squeeze off Iran's oil trade and to further cripple its economy. But the president added that the U.S. should also now be reimbursed 20% of the value of any cargo that makes it through the strait to pay, he said, for the cost of securing that vital shipping route. He said the U.S. would now be the guardian of the Hormuz Strait. That move, though, would go against longstanding policy in this country about supporting free navigation through international waters. It's something we've heard administration officials repeat publicly. Their support for Iran, we know, has said it wants to charge tolls or service fees, and President Trump has fiercely opposed that. And now the UN Maritime Agency is out reaffirming there should be no tolls here.
Alice, of course, the Strait of Hormuz has this massive impact on the global economy. We see the price of oil jumping right after President Trump's blockade announcement, kind of going back to what we've seen, taking away any of that progress. What is the economic fallout of this latest escalation?
Yeah, we're seeing the prices continue to surge. The global benchmark crude oil has now topped $87 a barrel this morning. U.S. crude surpassing $82 a barrel in all. We've seen U.S. oil go up more than 13% since trading opened Sunday night. And experts are noting here that the new jump in prices may take something like 48 hours to trickle down to customers at the gas pump. But as President Trump himself often says, the price of oil is tied into the price of everything. He's continually said it's all going to drop as soon as the fighting is over. But clearly we're not there yet. Savannah.
All right, Alice Barr, thank you so much. Well, summer is coming on with a vengeance this morning as 120 million people are waking up under heat alerts. A heat dome has settled in from Utah through to New England, pushing temperatures nearly 20 degrees above normal. That means cities like Detroit will see that mercury coming close to the 100-degree mark. And then meanwhile in Texas, an entire summer's worth of rain is expected to hit parts of the state over the next 2 days. Multiple rounds of storms have moved across West Texas, bringing between 2 and 6 inches of rain. Forecasters even say some isolated spots could get up to 15 inches. When the southeast, repeated days of rain have caused flooding so intense there, it's actually covering cars and even making some of them float. And in Missouri, first responders were out in rafts trying to rescue people who were caught by the fast rising floodwaters. One person was killed after her home was swept off its foundation by that water. With all that in mind, let's get a check in on our morning news now weather. We've got Angie Lassman with us. Hi, Angie. Good morning.
Hi, Savannah. Good morning to you. You laid it all out. We've got a whole lot going on when it comes to the weather. Let's start with the heat. 120 million people included in these alerts today as you're waking up. We've got across parts of the Northeast, the Great Lakes, and the Northern Plains, and stretching across the West, heat alerts that range from heat advisories, heat watches, to heat warnings. And that's because, yet again, we are going to see those temperatures surge thanks to this heat dome that's really just keeping all of this hot air in place. We've got 96 today in Minneapolis. It'll feel like 100 degrees. We've got 102 for the heat index in Chicago. New York City tops out at 95, but will feel like 97. And even Salt Lake City, 100 degrees for your actual temperature today. That heat continues into tomorrow, not much relief, and we'll see the potential to break a couple of record highs across these regions as we gear up for, yet again, high 90s, if not triple digits in some spots, and feeling like 102 in Chicago tomorrow, 103 for what it will feel like in New York City. By the time we get into late week, we still have hot conditions for most. We're going to see temperatures ending up into the triple digits for the actual temperature in Washington, D.C. by Thursday. A little bit of relief, I guess we can call it, by Saturday in that region with a high of just 96 degrees. We will get back down to the 80s in New York City by then. Otherwise, when we know that when we have these heat issues, this is really common. Air quality alerts are up. So if you or someone you know has difficulty breathing, this is going to be something that you're going to want to limit outdoor physical activity for. Philadelphia, New York, up through Providence, all included in this through the day today. Meanwhile, we've got a whole lot of rain that we've been tracking across parts of the South, specifically Texas, where 6 million people are under flood alerts right now. You can see these flash flood warnings ongoing just south of Kerrville and to the south of San Angelo, with some of these thunderstorms that have popped up. This is the kind of stalled front that we're watching be part of the culprit for why we're seeing so much of this kind of repeated rainfall. We've also got this high pressure that's ushering in some of this really kind of deep tropical moisture. So all the ingredients are there for us to see that front collide with some of the higher terrain in this region and ramp up the rainfall amounts. We've already seen multiple inches of rain. We've got the potential to see more of that here as we get through tomorrow. And these are going to be slow moving storm. So this is why we have that really great concern across this region, Savannah, for more flooding, something that folks that live in this area need to watch for at least through tomorrow.
Absolutely. And Angie, like I said a moment ago, some areas, and you're talking about now even up to 15 inches. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
That could be super dangerous. All right, Angie, thank you so much. There's much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, blockbuster bust. A dozen states teaming up to stop a multi-billion-dollar Hollywood mega merger. More on the efforts to keep Paramount from buying Warner Brothers Discovery. Up first after the break, though, new questions about the death of a Mississippi college football player, Nolan Wells. What his friends are saying about the day he disappeared. We'll be right back. We are back with new details about the circumstances surrounding the death of Mississippi college football player Nolan Wells. As investigators work to piece together his final hours, some of the friends who were with him the day he disappeared are speaking out. NBC News Daily anchor Kate Snow also spoke with Wells' parents as they continue their search for answers.
News to report her 18-year-old son, Nolan Wells, missing passing at 3 on Horn Island.
New audio from a dispatcher after Nolan Wells' mother contacted authorities when she learned her son was missing. 18-year-old Nolan went to Horn Island in a boat with friends on July 4th. His body was found 2 days later. It's unclear who Nolan was with when he disappeared. And now, new details from two people who were on the island. Trayston Shepard was not on the same boat with Nolan, but tells Rolling Stone he was with Nolan and a large group around 3:30 p.m. Many have speculated this video, widely circulated on social media, showed Nolan in an altercation. But Shepard says he's the man in that video having a disagreement. In that video, you hear somebody yelling, "That is me," Shepard told Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone reports Shepard's girlfriend, uncle, and a family friend corroborated his story.
So, it's really hard.
A close friend of Nolan's, Javon Williams, telling TMZ he saw Nolan on the 4th and would have done anything to help his friend.
That's my boy, and I want him to find justice. This whole case thing, whatever, this whole situation, none of this adds up to me.
Nolan's parents told us they need more information.
We're having to pull straws because just everything's so inconsistent. And again, we're doing this because we want answers.
Do you think someone might have harmed your son?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
We still don't have results from the official autopsy done in Mississippi. We also don't have any results yet from a privately commissioned autopsy that the family wanted to do. Meantime, NBC News has reached out multiple times to the coroner and to the county sheriff. We're told only that the investigation is still ongoing. And with that sort of gap of information, online sleuths have stepped in to try to solve this case. And just a warning that some of that information that's floating around online is misinformation and not true. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. A really important reminder there, as is often the case. Well, in overseas news, there are new details in that deadly fire in Thailand's capital city that we told you about yesterday. Social media videos show flames and smoke bursting out of the entrance of a Bangkok club early Monday morning. Look at this video. Now, investigators are sifting through the charred debris to determine what caused the fire. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer has the details.
The column of flames bursting out from a pub in a busy area of Thailand's capital, Bangkok. People seen fleeing, helping the wounded, and attempting to put out flames on an injured man. The blaze started on Sunday night. This video, filmed shortly before, shows a band performing in the crowded venue. The country's prime minister visiting the site said musicians say the fire started at a circuit breaker on the stage, followed by a blackout and an explosion. Thai authorities have opened an investigation looking at possible negligence, including emergency exits that witnesses say were blocked. It was so rapid there was no way to get out at all, the survivor says. We didn't know where the fire exit was. Body cam footage from first responders shows a venue filled with smoke. Authorities say most casualties were found in the bathrooms as people tried to escape.
And it spread quickly through the premise, and the people cannot escape quickly, so many of them suffocate.
At least 28 people are confirmed dead, with 71 injured. Relatives still struggling to find news of their loved ones, like this woman looking for her son, a singer at the pub. I have only one son, she says. I have no other kids. Now one of the worst incidents in the country's recent history, a fire with so many victims and so few answers. Janice Mackey-Frayer, NBC News.
Well, let's stay overseas and get to developing news out of France, where officials say fast-moving fires there are ripping through a forest just outside of Paris. NBC News international correspondent Claudia Lavanga joins us from Rome to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Claudia, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. Well, that's right. Firefighters in the south of France are still trying to bring a huge wildfires under control that has been raging across a major forest since Monday. Now, the forest blaze was described by French officials as violent and exceptional in scale. On Monday, the French Interior Minister said the flames are still not under control. The main fire in Fontainebleau has scorched more than 3,000 acres so far. The Interior Minister also said that 2 people were arrested in connection with the blaze, which he indicated may have been deliberately set. Let's stay in Europe now, where on Monday, Ukraine and Western allies gathered in Paris and announced they will develop an anti-ballistic missile system as an alternative to the US Patriot system to protect Europe from future missile threats. The leaders of Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Spain, Sweden, Ukraine and Britain pledged to join the anti-ballistic missile coalition as Russia steps up its threats and the US continues to send mixed messages on their support of NATO, Ukraine, and European allies. And let's end this tour of the world in space, where astronomers made a sweet discovery. In a study published Monday in the journal Nature Astronomy, experts say they detected a new type of sugar, also found in raspberries, floating in deep space in the cloud of gas and dust between stars. As different varieties of sugar make up DNA, the discovery may also provide clues to how life first emerged on Earth. But it also provided clues about another thing, Savannah. Well, that's the Milky Way is not sugar-free.
Good. Nice, Claudio. I hadn't gotten one of those types of jokes from you in a minute, so that was nice. Thanks, Claudia. See you in a bit. Coming up on Morning News Now, casting a shadow on a growing trend.
Is the goal like a deep, dark tan?
Yes, always. Me and my friends and other people that I know, we just feel and look better when we're tan.
Up next, we'll unpack the dangers of tan maxing and why doctors say getting that sun-kissed glow is not worth the risk. Plus, big benefits to look at how a popular workout supplement could also improve mental health. Your weekly check-in is next. We'll be right back. We are back with a TikTok trend that has doctors worried this summer. It is called tan maxing. It involves ditching sunscreen, spending hours in the sun, and then really just trying to get this bronze glow and even dramatic tan lines, no matter the skin cancer risk. And that is, of course, concerning dermatologists. Here's NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa.
Me and my sister are at the beach, and we're going to see how tan you can get.
Record heat roasts America. More and more young people are baking in that peak summer sun.
UV's tan.
In the name of a viral trend, tan maxing or sun maxing. The general goal, to spend hours in the sun with little to no sunscreen, even tracking the UV index to catch the strongest rays to build the darkest, most even tan possible. Dramatic tan lines, often seen as a bronzed badge of honor.
Would you consider yourself a tan maxer?
Oh, for sure.
Florida-based content creator Sasha Nicole Smith says she tans daily.
I don't personally use sunscreen, but I know my skin type very well. But I would do it in very small doses and in moderation.
Is the goal like a deep, dark tan?
Yes, always. Me and my friends and other people that I know, we just feel and look better when we're tan.
Do you worry about skin cancer down the line?
I do. I think if I was a lot fairer or if I was more prone to burning, I would be a little bit more concerned.
But for dermatologists, alarms about the glowing trend are growing louder.
Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, how much does this trend of tan maxing alarm you as a dermatologist?
It's definitely a 10. Sun is a silent killer.
Dr. Michelle Henry says young people addicted to Tan-Maxing come into her office repeating misinformation, like,
one of my patients described a base tan as being as safe as sunscreen, and that's really incorrect.
Another myth, she says,
we have zero evidence that sunscreen causes cancer.
Melanoma rates have been on the rise for decades, with an estimated 112,000 new cases expected this year, according to the National Cancer Institute. But denial about the danger is nothing new. Case in point, this NBC News piece from more than 30 years ago.
I guess I run a risk of getting skin cancer, but I like the beach and I like being in the sun.
Now, a new generation is obsessed with being bronze.
When these trends become popular and it becomes a part of the culture, it's very difficult to weave that out of the fabric of that generation.
Maggie Vespa, NBC News.
All right, it is time now for our weekly mental health check-in, and we're going to start right there from Tan-Maxing, but then there's also looks-maxing, books-maxing, anything, you can max it. We are talking about concerns about people who seem to want to do everything to the max. We're also going to talk about how a cheap and widely available supplement could end up helping to fight depression. We've got Dr. Robbie Ludwig, psychotherapist and host of the Pivot with Robbie Ludwig podcast, joining us now with more on this one. Great to see you, doctor, as always. So let's start with this maxing trend. Taking anything in your life and just trying to do it to the max, with the goal here being wellness or bettering yourself in some way. Why are experts concerned about this, though?
Well, more is not always more. And in some cases, it can be really dangerous. And people are not considering doing something to an extreme can really burn a person out. And it's unhealthy. So you need to think about, what are your goals? What do you really want to achieve? And what is really the best way for you to move forward? And in most cases, it's something like a step-by-step basis where success builds on success. If people get into too much exercise, it can create body dysmorphia in terms of how we see our bodies. If they over diet, if they even overread books, it's putting a lot of pressure on oneself, which often leads to a feeling of failing. So we really do need to keep these things in mind and be aware of these trends. Just because you see it doesn't mean you have to do it.
Oh, that's a great one. I feel like this next one could also be something that people would take to the max, so let's keep that in mind. This is about creatine. It's been used as a workout supplement for years, but recent research has linked it with brain health. Now researchers have also found it could have benefits for people with depression. I will say this is one of those supplements similar to how I just mentioned fiber maxing a second ago, that in the last, few months, maybe a year, I have seen so much more of it on social media, and has me kind of wondering, like, should I be taking creatine? Is this something I don't need? So What should we know about this one?
So creatine is an amino acid that is natural, and people have been using it for muscle health. And now they're looking at it in terms of mental health and well-being, because the theory is, does this really work in terms of helping with cellular energy? And there's a theory that cellular energy could help with mental health and depression. And the studies were impressive. They were double-blinded. Nobody knew what they were getting. There was a placebo and then the creatine. And they saw a slight boost when it was matched with something that does work. So it's interesting. We want to take a look at it, but we also don't want to prematurely sign on to this trend in terms of mental health, because the studies aren't there to back it quite yet.
All right, good advice there. Okay, finally, tell us what a power phrase is and why they can help us boost our confidence.
So a power phrase is like, just do it, or I can do this, or you can get through this race. It's empowering, and it tells your brain that you can get through what you need to get through. In part, it's action-based, which is why it works for our brain. Instead of getting into kind of a hopeful or hopeless mindset, it gives us the strength to kind of switch to an action mode. And we tend to feel better when we're in action mode. It does reduce anxiety. Again, those power phrases are, just do it, I'm strong, I'm reliable and confident, and I can finish this. And I think it's a great idea to say things to ourselves that put us in action mode and remind us of our strengths, even when we don't feel it.
All right, Dr. Ludwig, good stuff as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, a major plot twist to that multi-million-dollar Hollywood merger. A dozen states teaming up to block Paramount from buying Warner Brothers Discovery. More on the lawsuit just filed. Plus, mind your manners. Summer is the perfect time for a dinner party with friends. But what should you bring? How can you help? We're going to tell you the do's and don'ts of being a good guest next on Morning News Now. We are back with this new blockbuster lawsuit filed to stop Paramount's purchase of Warner Brothers Discovery. California and 11 other states are suing to block the $110 billion mega deal between the two media companies. They claim it would hurt competition in the entertainment industries, specifically for major film releases. California's Attorney General called the merger unlawful, saying in a statement that it would lead to higher prices, lower quality, and less content for film and television. Now, Paramount, for its part, said it plans to vigorously defend the deal. For more, let's bring in our friend, entertainment journalist and pop culture expert, Brian Balthazar, to walk through the details of this. Brian, good morning. Okay, so this is a super interesting one because I think so many people love Paramount content, love Warner Brothers content, but aren't really sure how the bigger picture could impact them. So this comes 1 month after the U.S. Justice Department did sign off on the deal. Walk me through the details of this lawsuit, like which states are involved and what exactly they're asking for.
Sure. So as you mentioned, 12 states are involved, among them California, Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, there we go, New York, Oregon, and Washington. Now, it is worth noting that these are all Democratic attorneys general that have filed, that are participating in this lawsuit, but it will be the job of the judge to kind of cast the politics of this aside and determine whether they are actually correct in saying that the studios are illegally reducing competition. And the way that these states are arguing, they're saying there are three major ways that they think this is a problem. One of them being wide release theatrical film distribution. When you have gone from 5 major studios to 4 big studios, you are now having filmmakers have less people that buy their films, and therefore there's less competition. So they're going to get less money. Their performers are going to get less money. So they're going to be, one, harder on filmmakers and actually less options for consumers. The second thing they're talking about is the big blockbuster theatrical film distribution. Again, we're going to have 2 studios combining into one. All of that IP in one house. They're going to say that we're not going to stop seeing those blockbusters by any means, trust me. But how does that affect the leverage? Could movie theaters then be forced to maybe give less of a percentage during their opening weekend because one studio is saying, we've got all the blockbusters. You want Harry Potter? We're not going to give you have to give us a little more, all of these things. They're going to have a lot of power. And then the third thing is licensing basic cable television stations. This company, when merged, will own 59 linear cable networks. And that comes down to, how does that affect you and I, right? Well, they go to the carrier agreements with the cable providers and they bundle that and they say, you want these 59 networks? Give us more money for those networks. And of course, when more money goes to one company, that's going to get someone's paying for it. And the answer is that's going to be us.
What have we heard from Paramount and Warner Brothers in response to this lawsuit, Brian?
Paramount, they did release a statement saying that, essentially, and I think we can pull it up, the lawsuit distorts and settled antitrust law. And basically what they're saying is the federal government has already said this is okay. And any attempt to block this transaction undermines the very principles antitrust law is designed to promote: more competition, more choice for consumers, and more opportunities for creators and workers. Paramount has said in the past that they're not going to reduce the number of films. In fact, that they will match and exceed the number of films that they've made as 2 separate studios. So they're saying that that this will result in actually more options for consumers. And that certainly remains to be seen because Hollywood is still a little uncertain about it.
Brian, I think a lot of times when there's these big mergers, there is sort of this holding your breath period. Like, is this actually going to happen, or is there going to be some type of antitrust conversation? Are we going to see a lawsuit like this one? But tell us, is this like a step further than that, where this could hold the deal off from happening, at least for now, and delay it more than we may see, due diligence going on when 2 major companies are merging?
Right. Well, the fact that the federal government has given this the okay is a big one. So it's not likely to go away. But this delay that you mentioned is important because if this merger doesn't take place by September 30th, Paramount then has to pay Warner Brothers stakeholders the amount of $650 million per quarter. So they're not investing back in the company they're about to own. They're giving the money to the people who they were buying it from. So the price goes up. Now, granted, so we were expecting, insiders were saying that this merger could have gone through later this month or into August or early August, but it's really important for this company to get it through by September 30th, because every delay really is a ticking bank of money that they're losing.
Brian, the other thing, aside from a lawsuit and what the attorneys general have to say, is just Hollywood in general. And I mean, for months, we have seen professionals in Hollywood, thousands of them, really pushing back on this merger, seeing protests over it. In April, there was even this open letter calling on states to take legal action, which now we're seeing. What are we hearing now from Hollywood heavyweights or from actors, from actresses about Hollywood's response here to this lawsuit? What are they saying?
Well, it's interesting because Hollywood has many factions, right? You have creatives, you have executives, and you have investors. And creatives have been very vocal about this all along, and they continue their fight against this, at least vocally, because they do kind of feel like they've lost the battle already, many of them. But they're saying, like, this will result in lost jobs and consolidation. That is inevitable. They're just saying that. Investors, on the other hand, perhaps even quietly, are saying, this is a good thing for investors. They see how their stock prices are going to go up, how their investments are going to go up. And then you have executives, which have sometimes started out as creatives. Executives acknowledge that the way that Hollywood has been working traditionally is kind of broken and something has to change, but it's a painful change, to say the least.
All right, Brian Balthazar, interesting stuff. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Well, summer is tailor-made for good food, great company, and if it's not too hot, dining outside. Well, now hosts can spend days, maybe even weeks, planning the perfect party, but guests should also do a little prep of their own by reviewing some simple rules of etiquette. What should you bring? When should you arrive? How do you make sure you get invited back? We're going to talk through these do's and don'ts of being a great guest with friend of the show, Mr. Manners himself, Thomas Farley. Thomas, good morning. We always love when you join us. Okay, and I got to say, I love this topic because I am always the host. So I am super excited for all my friends and family to hear how to be a great guest for me. So walk us through this. You've got the invite. You've RSVP'd, you're getting ready to head out the door. There's actually even mistakes that you can make before you arrive, I understand.
Yes, Savannah, good morning to you. And I love the fact that you're such a wonderful host, and it's no surprise. I think this is an opportunity. We talked about tan maxing. We talked about fiber maxing. Let's guest max. And so some of the ways that we can do that are RSVPing right away. So not waiting, not giving that dreaded maybe, but if you are going to be able to come, let that host know so they can start planning immediately. You're going to do so with intent. Next, we want to make sure that we arrive not early. As in most things in life, we do like to arrive early. Early is on time. But with a party, fashionably late is what you want to be. That means about 5 or 10 minutes. Otherwise, you're going to send the host into a tizzy as they're running around doing last minute things while you walk through the door. And last, for the planning part of it for the guest, I say you arrive with something for the host, but that's not a +1. So don't surprise, don't guerrilla attack with somebody that they weren't planning on seeing there.
I love, these are great tips. And I also like the last one, only contribute to the meal if you have gotten it okayed, because sometimes I'm like, well, that serving dish doesn't go with everything else I'm using and I don't want it here. Okay, so now you're walking through the door, you get to somebody's house. What can immediately make you a great guest once you're there?
Yeah, so you've got to remember, you were invited to an event, and especially if we're talking about a small kind of a curated dinner party, you're invited not just to fill out a room with a live body, but to actually be a part of a conversation and be a part of an experience for the other guests. So you're going to actively be interested in others. You're not going to be just staring down at your phone. You're going to engage with others with intent. And you can also be a help to the host. Light help is often welcome, but you're not going to be lingering in the kitchen and getting in their way. You're not going to be bringing a food item that they're going to need to throw into the oven, taking up precious rack space. So you want to mingle. You want to avoid questions such as, so what do you do? But rather something like, how do you know the host? Or what are you working on right now that's got you particularly excited? Do you have any fun vacation plans? So think about things that are fun. They'll generate the sparkling conversation.
Love that. Okay, so now if the party's winding down, what's the right way to make your exit without committing some type of party faux pas?
Yeah. So depending on the size of the event, if this is obviously if this is a wedding, say, or if this is a large event, a large cocktail party with dozens of people there, no need to make a grand exit. You want to pull the Irish exit. You're going to exit discreetly. But if it's a smaller event, you absolutely want to share your goodbyes with the host and the other guests at the party. It would be strange for you to suddenly disappear without warning. After the fact, immediately send a thank you text about how much fun you had, and then absolutely positively a handwritten thank you note. This is going to get you invited back to the next one.
Wow, it would definitely get you invited back at my house, but you don't have to do that if you're at my house. The text is enough. But I do not like an Irish exiter when somebody just leaves without telling me. No, that makes me sad. All right, Thomas Farley, thank you for joining us. That was so much fun.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Savannah.
Coming up, a football fever pitch. We're down to the final 4 teams in the World Cup. We've got all the excitement ahead of the semifinals set to kick off later today. Don't drop the ball. Morning News Now. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are down to the final 4 at this year's FIFA World Cup. And for the first time since 1990, each of the remaining teams are former World Cup champions themselves. Later today, fans will get the first of 2 blockbuster semifinal matchups as France takes on Spain with a spot in Sunday's final on the line. France will once again lean on superstar Kylian Mbappe, who is looking to guide his team to a 3rd straight World Cup final. And lining up against him is Spain's 19-year-old phenom Lamine Yamal, who hopes to continue his remarkable rise by delivering on the sport's biggest stage. Joining us now to talk through this matchup and the big storylines here is MLS analyst and former U.S. men's national team player Dax McCarty. Dax, as always, thanks for joining into us. Let's jump right into it. Both France and Spain, they came into this tournament with high expectations. Tons of history behind their teams. They have delivered up to this point. What is going to be the biggest factor, do you think, here that could decide this one?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me again, Savannah. It's always a pleasure. In terms of this game, this is everything FIFA could have wanted when the tournament started. In my opinion, the 2 best teams in the world. You'd love to see them meeting in the World Cup final, but they are meeting in a semifinal. That's exactly how FIFA kind of designed the new seeding system. Both of these teams play a little bit of a contrasting style. The Spanish want to dominate possession. They want to create chances through wide overloads and isolating Lamine Yamal out wide 1v1, whereas France really don't mind not having the ball. They have really speedy attackers that can hit you in transition. They won't mind not having the ball, and they're going to look to hit on the counterattack. It should be a fascinating matchup.
I mentioned them in the intro, but this game also features 2 of the sport's biggest stars, Kylian Mbappe and Lamine Yamal. What makes the matchup specifically between those 2 so compelling?
Well, both of them are the best players, some of the best players in the world. And it's actually fascinating to think back to 2018 when Kylian Mbappe was an 18-year-old, kind of in a similar fashion to what Lamine Yamal is experiencing now. Mbappe had a slower group stage, and he really came alive in the knockout rounds, helping to lead France to a World Cup victory. Lamine Yamal is in a similar boat. He came into this tournament banged up. He was nursing an injury, but there is no denying his talent. He's worked his way into the tournament, and while the goals and assists haven't been there, he's only scored 1 in this tournament. He has looked progressively more dangerous as the tournament has worn on. Both of these players are going to be key if their teams want to advance.
I am just going to now ask you, who do you think is going to win and why?
Well, I picked France before the tournament, and I'm not coming off that. They have looked utterly dominant in this entire tournament. They've got a lot of balance on both sides of the ball. They've scored the 2nd most goals in the World Cup. They have Kylian Mbappe, who's leading the Golden Boot race, but they also have the reigning Ballon d'Or winner in Ousmane Dembele, who's also another dynamic element to their attack. But don't take anything away from their defense. They've gotten 3 consecutive clean sheets in the knockout stages, the only team that hasn't conceded a goal in the knockout rounds. They're just a really well-oiled machine. They're well coached from Didier Deschamps. It's going to be a very, very good game, but it's going to take the perfect game from Spain to be able to beat this French team.
Is there a case to be made almost that this is kind of the stronger of the 2 semifinal matchups, that whoever wins this game is the heavy favorite here to win it all?
Well, there's no case to be made for the other semifinal being stronger. This semifinal is the stronger semifinal. Whoever wins this France-Spain game is going to be the favorite in the World Cup final. And that's not to take away from England or Argentina. Argentina are the defending world champions. But both England and Argentina haven't looked as convincing in this tournament. They've made it to a semifinal based off of their superstars stepping up in big moments. Obviously, Lionel Messi is having a fantastic World Cup. And then for England, Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham are an absolutely frightening 1-2 punch. But make no mistake about it, whoever makes it to the final from France or Spain is going to be the favorite.
Dax, finally, quickly here as the pressure heats up, what do you think separates a good team from becoming a world champion at this stage of the tournament?
Who can handle pressure in the most difficult moments? We've seen plenty of games that are very close. The margins in international football, international soccer are so thin. Your superstars have to be fantastic. They've got to deliver in the biggest moments. And then if the games go to extra time, if they go to penalty kicks, who can hold their nerve? It's a very nerve-wracking experience, but we have a really fantastic opportunity to watch the best 4 teams in the world.
No kidding. Dax McCarty, thanks for getting us fired up about this. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.
That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning, and thank you for kicking off your Tuesday with us. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe's off today. Right now on Morning News Now, sobering new details on the final moments of longtime South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. What was said in what could have been his final phone call made before 911 was notified Saturday evening, and the family member who is slated to take his seat on Capitol Hill. We are covering it all. The deafening demand for answers in Maine this morning after another deadly ICE-involved shooting, reigniting backlash from one community there. Federal agents firing at and killing a man during what they say was an attempted traffic stop. The outrage now boiling over even to the halls of Congress. We're also watching your wallet on this Tuesday with some new numbers spotlighting America's fight against inflation. We'll tell you where prices are still sky high, where you can finally find some relief, and of course, how Wall Street is reacting to it all. And later in the hour, our friends at Today just sat down with the one and only Matt Damon on his own odyssey to become the fearless face of what might be the year's biggest blockbuster. I cannot wait to get out and see that movie and hear a little bit of that interview. Thanks for joining us again. We're going to begin this hour with the ongoing fallout from Lindsey Graham's sudden death. This morning, we're learning new details of the South Carolina Republican senator's final few hours as his sister, Darlene, prepares to be sworn into office later today. She was appointed by South Carolina's governor to see out her brother's term. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has more on these developments here. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Senator Graham's Senate seat will stay in the family as his younger sister, backed by Trump's blessing, is set to take his place later today. All this as FBI agents visited Graham's residence and new information about what happened there Saturday night has emerged.
New details this morning about the final moments of Senator Lindsey Graham's life and what may have been his final phone call. Senator Tommy Tuberville revealing that it was his former scheduler who received that call from Graham.
Called basically, said, listen, I'm having chest pains. I need to do something. Said, did you call 911? And he goes, no, that's the reason I called you. And so she called 911.
The scheduler, who is currently working for Graham, called 911. By the time she got to his house, paramedics had already arrived, but they were too late. Now the investigation into his death is ramping up. More than a dozen FBI agents spent 2 hours at Graham's D.C. home. 2 law enforcement sources familiar with the scene tell NBC News that FBI agents were there out of an abundance of caution and that there was no evidence to suggest foul play was involved in his death. Later today, Graham's sister, Darlene Graham Nardone, will take the oath of office to fill out her brother's term set to end in January, appointed by South Carolina's governor with President Trump's endorsement.
This is what Lindsey would have wanted.
Graham and his younger sister have always had a close relationship. He legally adopted her when she was 13 years old, after both their parents passed away.
Lindsey has always been there for me, and now I will be there for him.
She has never held elected office and is not expected to run for the seat in the fall. Instead, a wide group of Republicans are considering a run in the snap primary this August. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Graham's desk in the chamber adorned with white roses. A makeshift memorial has appeared in front of his Capitol Hill office. Graham's colleagues, both Republican and Democrat, are trying to come to grips with his shocking loss.
And we had a good working relationship between us. No cheap shots, no stabs in the back.
I will miss Lindsey's friendship, Mr. President, more than I can say. We will laugh together again. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
And you see Senate Majority Leader John Thune right there. He said that he's already spoken with Graham's sister and the governor of South Carolina about services. He's also indicated that there are discussions on whether the senator will lie in state at the U.S. Capitol, but these are still in the early stages of planning. Savannah?
All right, Ryan, thank you very much. Well, President Trump says he is planning to address the nation this Thursday night in a primetime speech. It comes as a federal judge delivered a sharp rebuke to the president, ruling that his lawsuit and settlement with the IRS over those leaked tax returns amounted to an attempt to, quote, manipulate the judicial process. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins us now. Gabe, good morning. So let's start right there. Remind us just what this case was all about here and what the judge said in her ruling.
Hi there, Savannah. Good morning. Well, the judge in Florida ruled, as you said, that the president's lawsuit against the IRS, which he controls as president, was, quote, brought to manipulate the judicial process. And the judge even suggested sanctions punishing the president's lawyers for bringing it. And that includes acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. Now, you'll remember the settlement from this lawsuit created that controversial so-called anti-weaponization fund. That was a $1.8 billion fund that the president said would be used to compensate people who he said were unfairly targeted by the Biden administration. That set off an uproar on Capitol Hill. And in a statement, Trump's legal team said the IRS wrongly allowed a rogue, politically motivated employee to leak private and confidential information about President Trump and his family to the media. Still, the judge's new ruling appears to be the final word, Savannah, in killing that anti-weaponization fund.
What's been the response, Gabe, from the Trump administration? Tell us more.
From the Trump administration to that lawsuit, well, the White House has referred all questions to President Trump's legal team, and I just read you that statement there. But look, the president, there was this uproar on Capitol Hill with regards to his anti-weaponization fund. The president said that it was struck down essentially on a technicality, so it's unclear whether he would try to bring it back. However, this judge's ruling was pretty definitive when it came to this lawsuit overall, and this anti-weaponization fund appears to be going nowhere at this point, Savannah.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez, thank you very much. Well, as you mentioned, the president is expected to deliver this primetime speech on Thursday. Gabe, so sorry, I hope you're still with us. Is it clear what this address is about?
Well, Savannah, the president didn't specify what he'd be talking about during that speech, scheduled for 9 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Now, while it comes amid those escalating tensions with Iran, Savannah, MS Now reports, citing two White House officials, that the president is expected to address newly declassified intelligence, which the administration claims reveals plans by foreign nations to interfere in the 2020 election. Now, three people familiar with the effort tell NBC News that a White House task force had been gathering thousands of pages of documents from U.S. intelligence and law enforcement agencies, including information related to the 2020 elections, also signs of ballot irregularities and potential voting machine issues. Now, after that election, you'll recall, Savannah, President Trump and his allies, they filed multiple lawsuits, but they were overturned in large part over a lack of evidence. And elections experts and government officials, including members of President Trump's cabinet during his first term, have said that there was no widespread voter fraud. Still, President Trump has continued to falsely claim that the 2020 election was stolen, and he named a longtime supporter, Bill Pulte, to temporarily lead the intelligence agencies. Now, overnight, Democrats, including Senator John Ossoff of Georgia, argued that the president is focusing on, quote, debunked election conspiracy theories and new lies to deny his 2020 defeat and attack voting rights. Savannah, the midterm elections are less than 4 months away.
All right, Gabe, thank you so much. Well, Well, the fragile peace deal between the U.S. and Iran appears to be in jeopardy this morning after the two sides traded strikes for a third straight night. The escalation comes after President Trump ordered the military to take control of the Strait of Hormuz and threatened a large fee for ships that want safe passage. NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons is in Qatar with the latest. Keir, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. And we have, as you're right, multiple pieces of news from here. News from inside Iran of new explosions and fresh strikes, according to Iranian media just this morning. Meanwhile, it is now almost impossible to take a ship from here through the Strait of Hormuz, with U.S. Central Command saying it will reimpose that naval blockade from 4 p.m. this afternoon. That's Eastern time. And the UAE accusing Iran of a brazen attack on two super tankers, killing one crew member. This morning, the U.S. escalating its attacks with a third night of punishing airstrikes against Iran. U.S. Central Command saying the 5-hour mission struck military targets, including coastal defense systems and missile and drone sites. Also hit Bandar Abbas, Iran's key port in the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump reimposing a naval blockade in the vital waterway, declaring America will not only control it, but will also charge a 20% fee for all cargo that passes through it.
I want to be reimbursed because we're protecting a very rich portion of the world.
But such charges are illegal, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said earlier this year when Iran proposed doing the same thing.
No country is allowed to charge tolls or fees on an international waterway.
Oil prices spiked after President Trump announced the blockade, marking the largest single-day jump in 6 years. It's also prompting concerns at the pump, with gas prices expected to increase. Iran's foreign minister declaring on social media that his country is the guardian of the strait and will remain so forever. This morning, few ships are openly using the strait. The numbers attempting to pass collapsing, according to ship tracking sites. Iran's hardline Revolutionary Guard promising an energy crisis. President Trump upping his own rhetoric last night.
They're wired differently, and we're not going to put up with it. We are just going forward. We're attacking them tonight.
It comes as U.S. embassies across the Gulf region issued security alerts. And Iran saying it targeted American military assets in Jordan and Bahrain. Another potential flashpoint, Savannah, rising tension between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis. That, of course, raising the question of a risk to another crucial shipping lane there in the Red Sea, just off the coast of Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, President Trump formally notified Congress that the conflict with Iran has restarted. The Trump administration views that as opening a 60-day window for more military action. Savannah?
All right. Keir, thank you so much. Well, there are growing calls for answers in Maine this morning after ICE agents shot and killed a man during what they say was an attempted traffic stop. One of Maine's senators, Angus King, later said the Homeland Security Secretary told him the victim was not the target of an ICE warrant. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin has the latest. Aaron, good morning.
Hey there, according to an ICE spokesperson, the shooting happened when agents tried to conduct a traffic stop, and they say the vehicle tried to get away. That's when ICE says an agent opened fire, quote, fearing for public safety. It's the second fatal shooting involving ICE agents in the past week. We want to warn you, some of the video we're going to show you may be disturbing.
ICE murdered a human being!
This morning, there's growing outrage in Maine following the fatal shooting of a man by an ICE agent. In this video, you can see a white vehicle driving in a circle as an agent grabs at the door. It's unclear if this was before or after the shooting. This clip shows what appears to be federal agents pulling the limp body of a man from the vehicle and cuffing his hands behind his back. The sounds of shots fired captured on a nearby doorbell camera. According to an ICE spokesperson, the agency was conducting targeted surveillance on the last known address of an individual with a final order of removal. That statement goes on to say an individual who was not here legally departed the residence in a vehicle, which attempted to flee the scene, and fearing for public safety, an officer discharged his weapon. adding the driver of the vehicle was struck and passed away from his injuries. Senator Angus King telling CNN the statement does not tell the full story.
The person they were after was not the guy they ended up shooting. And then, as you say, the statement does not allege that the officer felt that he was in danger.
An immigrant rights organization tells NBC News the man killed was a 26-year-old from Colombia who was authorized to work in the U.S. and even had a social security number. They say his name is being withheld at the request of his family. Nelson Elias witnessed the aftermath of the shooting.
It was scary, and his wife was crying and saying like, "Oh my God."
Now protesters are taking to the streets of Maine, just days after another fatal ICE shooting in Houston. In that case, DHS says the man weaponized a van against agents. But some Texas officials are questioning that narrative. In both cases, ICE agents were not wearing body cameras. DHS said its Office of Inspector General will lead the investigation. Earlier yesterday, Maine's Attorney General also said it's actively investigating, adding the federal agent will be placed on leave as is standard protocol in police-involved shootings. Back to you.
All right, Aaron, thank you so much. Well, on Capitol Hill, 2 of the 9 Supreme Court justices are set to make a rare appearance before Congress today. Justices Elena Kagan and Amy Coney Barrett are set to appear before a House Appropriations panel on increasing security funding. It comes amid a rise in threats to members of the judiciary in recent years. NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach is in Washington with the details for us. Gary, good morning. So the Supreme Court seeking millions of dollars in security funding. Tell us why these 2 justices in particular were chosen to represent the court today.
So they're an ideologically opposed duo, but of course salaries and budgets and security are bipartisan in nature. And they're asking for a total of $228 million from Congress. This covers things like salaries. It covers things like security. It will cover building costs and, of course, equipment and supplies inside the Supreme Court building. That's a $20 million increase from last year's budget request from the Supreme Court. And it's going to focus on things like a new security center for visitors when they go into the building of the Supreme Court for tours or for oral arguments. It's also going to hire several new Supreme Court police officers because those folks are now the ones that are in charge of the security of Supreme Court justices, both inside the building and when they're at home or out doing public events. And it also beefs up the security around the homes of the residences of the Supreme Court justices themselves, Savannah.
Gary, this hearing comes just 2 weeks after the conservative majority court wrapped up quite a busy term, including an extremely busy last day with some of the biggest decisions saved for that final day of the term. What type of question can we expect the justices to face today? Does any of what we just saw that happened there in the Supreme Court kind of filter into today at all?
I'm sure they will get those questions, but I'm also pretty sure they're not going to answer those kinds of questions. These are trained lawyers. These are trained jurists. They're not going to get into the politics of what happened with birthright citizenship or tariffs, for example. But these justices are focused and have a story to tell as it relates to security. Justice Barrett herself has been the target of a swatting attack just a few months ago. Her home was targeted in a fake call that said there was gunshots heard near her home. That wasn't true. When police arrived, they found that it was a false call. There's been pizza deliveries to her home and to other homes of her family members. And that's happened across the federal judiciary. We've seen more than 300 threats to federal judges around the country. Just this year alone, the U.S. Marshal Service is investigating. So this is a serious issue, and the Supreme Court is asking for this money to take care of this very serious issue.
Gary, also tomorrow there's going to be another big hearing on the Hill. This is Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. He's set to testify before the Senate in his confirmation hearing for Attorney General. So a big day for him, but it comes as he's facing this new legal pushback on President Trump's settlement with the IRS. What can we expect there? How could that legal issue filter into what we see on the Hill tomorrow?
Yeah, this is going to be a hearing that gets quite political in nature. We forget that Todd Blanche is not actually a confirmed attorney general because he's been doing so much in that position, even as an acting attorney general. But he is set to face his confirmation hearing tomorrow, and he'll be facing questions on a variety of things, from that weaponization fund that Gabe was talking about a little earlier to those redactions of the Epstein files. Just months ago, we had millions and millions of Epstein files drop. Him and Pam Bondi were sort of hand in hand involved in the redactions of of that information. Some of it did not get redacted and yet was released to the public. And also all these political indictments that we've seen. We've seen James Comey get indicted over a photo of seashells on Instagram. We've seen Letitia James try to get indicted. We've seen the Southern Poverty Law Center. So we've seen a lot of different political indictments. I'm sure members of Congress on both sides of the aisle will have some very strong questions for the Deputy Attorney General that wants to be the next Attorney General of the United States.
Gary Grumbach, thank you so much. One other scorching hot day is on the way for millions of Americans this morning. We've got Angie Lassman here with all those heat alerts for us. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hi, Savannah. Good morning. Time to crank up that AC. We're going to need it today. We've got a whole lot of folks under these heat alerts with the potential for some dangerous heat as we get into the warmer parts of the day. 120 million people from the Northeast, across the Great Lakes, and across the plains, as well as parts of the West included in those alerts, with temperatures back to the 90s today, feeling like 102 degrees in Chicago this afternoon. We've got 100 degrees for the actual temperature in Salt Lake City. So you get the picture. It's going to be quite warm. You're going to need to find those kind of cool spots and watching out for the more vulnerable populations over the next couple of days, really. We've got the chance to see some of these record highs as we get into the day tomorrow, with still those actual temperatures into the high 90s in a lot of spots and feeling like the triple digits for a whole lot of folks as well. New York City will feel like 103 degrees tomorrow. And even as we get into late week, we don't see a whole lot of relief. We'll get back to the 80s by Saturday in New York City, but still into the 90s Thursday and Friday. 101 for Washington, D.C. on Thursday. Even our friends in St. Louis, Chicago, Cincinnati, Nashville, all into the 90s, at least through the beginning part of our upcoming weekend. So the heat is on, and so are some thunderstorms that are fairly uncommon for this region at this time period. We've got already some thunderstorms happening across parts of New England, and this is going to be a spot that we watch specifically as the day goes on to see kind of an eruption of some of these stronger thunderstorms later today. Notice we've got that enhanced risk stretching across parts of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and New York. This is fairly rare for this time of year, and we are looking at the potential for some damaging winds and some tornadoes. So heads up for folks there. Otherwise, it's the flooding that gets your concern or gets your attention across parts of Texas specifically. We've got 6 million people included in those flood alerts, and the chance for flash flooding is there through the day today. Notice Del Rio, San Antonio. By the time we get through at least Thursday, Savannah, we could see upwards of 6 to 10 and even 15 inches of rain. So a really big concern across parts of Texas over the coming days.
No kidding. All right, Angie Lassman, thank you so much. Welcome back. For the first time this morning, we are hearing from the grandfather who was attacked and tossed in the air by a charging bison at Yellowstone National Park. Of course, you remember this video. He suffered a pretty serious injury, but says he is thankful for all of the people who rushed to help him. NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal is following the story, and she joins us with more. Camila, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. So the 65-year-old man says the encounter with the bison could have been so much worse. He now says he's grateful for the people that helped him during this incident and is working toward recovery.
Look out, bison! Look out!
For the first time overnight, Carl McDaniel is opening up about his now viral face-to-face encounter with a raging bison last Friday at Montana's Yellowstone National Park. The 65-year-old grandfather now recovering from a broken femur after the massive animal chased him around a camp before tossing him high into the air. McDaniel telling CNN, "We were about 100 yards away, and the bison was not aggressive, so they snapped a few photos and continued walking." Photographer Mike McLeod filmed the wild encounter.
They were doing everything right. They were respectful, and once the bison showed any agitation, they left. And they were just at the wrong time in the wrong place.
McDaniel says around that time, a truck drove by, and the driver honked his horn in what he believes was an apparent attempt to get the bison to move. And it worked. The sound agitated the bison, and it began running toward them. McDaniel telling CNN, "There was not a lot of time, so I told my grandson to run in one direction, and I went the other to try and draw him away." After chasing the pair around a wooded area, the hulking animal eventually caught up to McDaniel and sent him flying. McDaniel says he was on the ground and unable to move when something remarkable happened. "He was right on top of me. He could have stomped on me. He could have gored me. He could have done almost anything to take my life, and he did not do so." That's when the photographer says he immediately stopped filming and ran to help, yelling at the bison along with other Good Samaritans to scare it off.
I could see that bison was standing over him, and pumping his head, very aggressive and agitated. And I knew that somebody had to distract that thing.
McDaniel, who had surgery on Sunday, says he's grateful for all the people who helped and thankful it was not much worse.
And Carl McDaniel told CNN that he broke his femur in 4 places near his hip. He says he'll be doing physical therapy for the next few days to start walking again, but he was thankfully able to stand yesterday, Savannah.
Wow. All right, Camila, just that video, it just really still gets you. Thank you so much. Well, for more, let's bring in Ron McGill. He's a wildlife photographer and wildlife conservation liaison for the Zoo Miami Foundation. Ron, good morning. Great to have you with us. I mean, first, I want your overall thoughts and your reaction, I think, because honestly, when I first saw the video circulating on social media, I thought it was AI because of just how high he was tossed. I'm just wondering what you thought when you see this, what sticks out to you in this video?
Well, of course, it shows the immense power of that animal. This is a bison bull. And, I'm not terribly surprised at the behavior because we're at the peak of what's called the bison rut right now. This is where the males are just charged with hormones. They're fighting each other. They're challenging each other. This male is obviously by himself, which I'm assuming is because he's already lost a bunch of challenges. He's not been able to get females of his own, get his own little harem going on. And he's pretty frustrated. That rolling around in the sand, you can see the agitation there, and then that truck comes by. Well, that bison, that's all he needed to trigger him. And unfortunately, that gentleman was in the wrong place at the right time. As was said before by the photographer, he really did nothing wrong. He was doing everything right, just very unfortunate situation.
Do you think it was that truck and the horn? Because I think so many of us watch these videos, sometimes you see these social media videos of people just clearly behaving poorly in a national park and sort of antagonizing an animal. They seem to be quite respectful, doing the right thing, keeping the right distance, and then this happens. Do you think it was that horn?
It could have been the horn of the truck itself. This is a big object driving by, moving. In a bison's mind, hormones, to put it succinctly, at this time of the year, these animals are not very intelligent. They're so driven to find females, to get territory. They're going to challenge anything. A big truck coming by, compounded with the horn, could be a huge bison. And he went down there, the truck escaped. He then saw the gentleman, and that was the unfortunate situation.
High school boy vibes. That's what I'm getting from what you're saying.
Exactly.
This time of year, does that mean that there's something more to keep in mind, or maybe something more that should be done to separate bison or any other type of animal going through this hormonal period from visitors?
Absolutely. This is going to go now June through September is when the peak of the rut's going on. The park says you always stay a minimum of 25 yards away from bison. With rut, I would say 100 yards away, especially from any male. And when you see a lone male like that, again, I don't want to seem too anthropomorphic, but put yourself in a situation. This guy is trying to find females. He's trying to get some territory. He's by himself because he's already lost a bunch of challenges. He's already in a bad mood. So keep that in mind.
What are some things that people need to remember if they are hiking in an area with wild bison, whether it's now during the bison rut, I think you said it's called, or other parts of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you're in an area that there's bears or bison, I always recommend to people to carry bear spray. Bear spray is something that really can save a life in the right situation. So when you're out in these national parks, you're in territory that there can be bears, there can be bison, animals like that, carry the bear spray. Most likely you'll never have to use it, but if you need to use it, it could save your life.
Ron McGill, really good tips and really good information. We just learned a lot about what the heck is going on with the bison this time of year. We appreciate it. Good to see you. We are back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with new evidence in the investigation of 2 fatal shootings during an immigration enforcement crackdown in Minnesota. NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor joins us with more. Sahil, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. We begin today in politics with state investigators in Minnesota saying that the feds have handed over evidence regarding the fatal DHS shooting of Fernay Good and Alex Preddy earlier this year. That evidence, according to the Associated Press, includes police body camera video and statements on hard drives, among other materials, in the high-profile killings that shook the nation. It comes just days after another fatal shooting by an ICE officer, this time in Maine. Meanwhile, 12 states have filed a lawsuit to block a massive $110 billion merger of Paramount and Warner Brothers, a month after the Justice Department greenlit the transaction. The lawsuit, led by California, makes an antitrust case calling the merger unlawful and warning that it would be a bad deal for consumers, as well as movie theaters and cable distributors, causing higher prices and lower quality content. Paramount hit back, arguing that the suit distorts settled antitrust law and misrepresents competition in the modern entertainment industry. The deal, if finalized, would put more power in the hands of the billionaire Ellison family, who are friends of President Trump, giving them control of a major film studio, in addition to CNN and HBO. And finally, problems continue with the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, with Trump announcing that the water had been drained yesterday, but would be refilled soon. The project came about as the president wanted to repaint the historic pool blue, but didn't go according to plan after it overshot his initial cost estimates, already topping $14.5 million, and as blue paint was seen chipping off while algae turned it green. The president blaming the most recent troubles and the need for repairs on vandals. And that is a look at what's making news in politics today. Savannah?
All right, Sahil, thanks so much. We're going to get an update on a story we've been following for a while now. These are these legal battles being fought over medication abortion. Last year, a Texas man filed a lawsuit against a California doctor for prescribing abortion pills to his girlfriend. He alleges she was pressured to take them by her estranged husband. The lawsuit argues that access to abortion pills by mail enables men to coerce women into taking them, something that has become a prominent talking point for anti-abortion activists. Now, access to abortion pills by mail has become a major target for these groups because it enables women to terminate pregnancies in states where abortion is banned. For more on this, let's bring in NBC News medical reporter Aria Bendick. She recently published an article looking into this issue, and she's been on this for a while for us. Aria, good morning.
Morning.
So this lawsuit was filed by this man in Texas. It really is facing this uphill battle. This is after documents obtained by NBC News found he has a history of domestic violence, which obviously just adds a twist to this case. Walk us through that.
Right. So this is one of the more complicated cases I've come across. Essentially, this Texas man argued in court last year that his girlfriend was coerced into taking abortion pills by her estranged husband. Now, he sued the husband, but that case was dismissed. The lawsuit that's really been talked about in anti-abortion circles is one against this California doctor who prescribed the pills into Texas. And at the start of this year, the Texas man said that doctor shouldn't be allowed to prescribe abortion pills into Texas anymore. Let's stop that. But because of his domestic violence record, he was not able to bring that case forward under this new Texas law that allows private citizens to sue providers. So that was the update as of the start of this year. Then he refiled the suit very recently, adding his daughter as a plaintiff, and the daughter is now bringing that case forward. Wow. So we'll see how the judge responds to that, but certainly not a straightforward lawsuit by any means.
Definitely not. Some certainly interesting details there. Aria, how are anti-abortion groups sort of seizing on this?
Right. So the argument among anti-abortion groups is that telehealth abortion is essentially allowing this new form of domestic violence where bad actors can get their hands on pills online or through the mail and then force women to take them. Now, legally, that's an important strategy because in order to bring these suits forward, you have to demonstrate that there was some sort of injury to your plaintiff. So this is the injury that they're claiming, this coercion. But reproductive rights lawyers tell me that the broader strategy is simply to restrict abortion access altogether, and that the Texas case in particular is a baseless claim.
So let's talk about this medication, mifepristone. So this is this medication that women are able to access by mail, and in May, the Supreme Court actually allowed it to continue to be available by mail. And here's the real sticky point here, without an in-person appointment with a clinician. Remind us what we heard from the justices there, what their reasoning was, how it plays into these lawsuits, but also how sort of firm that ruling is.
So this case is a bit different than the one I just described. As you mentioned, it challenges this FDA provision that was put in place during the pandemic so that people could access abortions via telehealth. And the Supreme Court decided in May that we're going to let this case play out, and rather than cause chaos and confusion and restrict abortion access via telehealth, we'll keep the status quo there. So that continues to be available while the case makes its way through the court system. Now, here's where things come full circle. One of the plaintiffs in that case is a Louisiana woman who claimed she was forced to take abortion pills by her boyfriend. So we're seeing kind of the same coercion argument at the heart of that case that we saw in the Texas case. But this FDA one, lawyers tell me, is probably the strongest argument that anti-abortion groups have. So that really is the one to watch.
All right, Aria Bendix, thank you so much. Well, coming up, a fresh snapshot of America's ongoing fight against inflation is out this morning. When we come back, we're breaking down the new numbers, where prices might be falling, and what it says about the strength of the U.S. economy as summer rolls on. That's next on Morning News Now. We are back with some breaking economic data. Inflation fell by 0.4% in June month over month and rose by 3.5% year over year. We have NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal with us, alongside with Caleb Silver, Investopedia editor-in-chief and chief business editor of People Inc. Good morning to you both. Ali, I will start with you. Just walk us through these numbers, how they compare with previous months. Put in context those numbers I just said.
Well, you know, Savannah, we have good news and bad news. I mean, the good news here is that inflation did cool during the month of June compared to what we saw in May, right? 3.5%. That's a pretty good number. In May, we were at 4.2%. But what's interesting here is that that's mostly due to a decline in energy prices and gas prices. And unfortunately, due to the escalation that we're seeing between the U.S. and Iran, gas prices are on their way back up. Energy prices are higher. So we're likely going to see a reversal of some of these declines that we did see in the month of June. That is pretty unfortunate, especially when you consider how expensive it's been for many Americans out there. But at least we are seeing a little bit of pressure taken off when you factor in those lower gas prices. But again, that's on the upswing right now, Savannah.
Ali, a true pro working through a big board that's not cooperating.
We'll try and get this working for you guys.
We'll see while I'm chatting with Caleb. No, but Caleb, what is your reaction to this report? Just tell us off the bat, and what does it tell us about the overall state of our economy?
Yeah, it's the biggest drop on a monthly basis in 6 years. That sounds big, but we consider where we were. We were at 4.2% in May. Now we're down at 3.5% on an annual basis. Energy being the big driver there. Ali mentioned it. Energy prices dropping 5.7%. Gas down 9.5%. But guess what? It's up 27% year over year. So we're still feeling elevated prices, and retailers and everyone else has been able to raise their prices to deal with inflation. We've just had to deal with it as consumers. I think that's going to persist through the summer, probably through the rest of the year.
All right, Ali, a reporter and a magician. She's fixed the board for us. Break down these prices by category.
Okay, so let's look at the big three: food, energy, shelter. Food, once again, coming in 0.2%. So pretty much what we saw during the month of May. Now, energy prices, again, I've been saying this is the big one here, down 5.7% in June compared to a 3.9% increase during May. This is due to the easing tensions between the U.S. and Iran, which, like I've been saying, has been ticking back up again. And then shelter, your homes, your rent, that was up 0.3% in May, only up 0.1% in June. So that's encouraging. A couple other call outs I want to say is gas prices, as we've been saying, energy is down. Gas is also down 9.7% your gas. And we saw that with the national average ticking lower.
Wow.
You know, we'll continue to monitor and see how gas prices continue to change through the coming weeks and months. Tomatoes are also down 10% after rising 15% in March. So a bit of a volatile category here. Ground beef, which we know beef prices are at record highs. That's up 1.3%. And your morning cup of joe, that's down 2%. That's encouraging. That's something that we always like to see, especially early in the mornings these days.
No kidding. All right, Caleb, time for your magic trick. The next Federal Reserve is...
You're talking about the one in 15 days, 5 hours and 10 minutes. Yeah, that's July 29th for those of you keeping a normal calendar. Wouldn't expect too much of a change in interest rates. Kevin Warsh, the new Fed chair, testifying in front of the Senate today and tomorrow in the semi-annual testimony. His first as Fed chair, but he is completely focused on bringing inflation down. And he says that's what the rest of the FOMC is focused on. They're not worried about the labor market. They're worried about these prices, and they will do whatever it takes to get inflation closer to 2%. We're at 3.5% right now. We got a ways to go. Energy prices, the big bogey there, but I wouldn't expect too much of a change from the Fed except this relentless focus on bringing inflation down.
Ali, how is inflation stacking up against wage growth? And then what does that mean for consumers who are already under pressure?
Yeah, well, the good news is here that wages now equal inflation. For a few months there, we have been seeing inflation actually outpace wages, which means your paycheck wasn't going as far as it usually would. However, this number, this 3.5% for wage growth, this is pretty low. I mean, towards the end of last year, this was closer to 4%. So we want to see wages go up. We continue to want to see inflation go down. And again, like I've been saying, inflation will likely tick higher from here as higher energy prices continue to work their way through the system. Also, the AI build out has created a lot of higher prices across the board. We've recently saw Apple raise their prices, Xbox raise their prices due to memory chip shortages. So something to watch as a consumer. And, you know, summer's almost over, Savannah, and soon we'll be thinking about the holidays. So everyone has pricing on their mind.
Don't say that to me. It's so not almost over. It is not even technically the middle
You're
of
right.
June.
You know what? I take it back.
Okay, I see what you're saying, though, from a financing perspective, from a planning perspective.
Yes.
Caleb, any advice for people managing their finances right now?
Yeah, these are where the numbers are going to be. We have elevated prices because of gas. It's uncertain. I agree with Ali. Gas prices are probably going to go up through the rest of the summer, and there's still plenty of time left. Know that interest rates probably won't change, and prices probably won't change. This is status quo probably through the end of the year.
All right, Caleb and Ali, thank you both for covering this breaking news for us. Appreciate it. Well, coming up, it's set to be one of the year's biggest blockbuster movie experiences. So after the break, our friends over at Today sit down with the one and only Matt Damon for a candid conversation on becoming Odysseus and the ultimate epic story. That's next. Stay with us. We are back now with a look at what is set to be one of the biggest films of the year, The Odyssey. The movie stars Matt Damon, who embodies Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, as he embarks on an epic journey home. Our friend Craig Melvin just sat down with Damon to talk about what it was like to work on such an epic production. Here's a bit of that interview.
Where would you rank this one in terms of the challenge to pull it off?
Oh, this is the hardest by far.
You've ever done?
Ever. Nothing comes close. It was because Chris does everything in camera. It's all practical. And we shot all on IMAX, which had never been done before. So the effort that it took from thousands of people, and I mean the crew, I've never seen a group more asked of a crew. And more inspiration drawn from one another, watching each other. You know, everyone's very experienced on this movie, so we could look over at other departments and go, man, I've never seen that department do that before. And that was just kind of across the board. So the feeling it built was this incredible kind of team ethos that really carried through the entire production. It was an amazing experience.
When I was watching, I thought, gosh, I mean, surely he had to use a stunt double for some of this. But no.
Chris doesn't like that.
So you learned how to use the bow and arrow?
Yeah. That he wanted, Odysseus is an archer, and he wanted me to be able to speed load a bow, which is very hard. It's hard to get the arrow knocked on the string. So I just sat in my apartment with a bow and arrow for months, and just whenever I was sitting around, if we were watching something with the kids, I just practice speed loading. Thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and it's like a little detail, but it's funny. This, being an actor, that you get tasked with doing kind of weird stuff sometimes, and so you have these these skills that really don't apply anywhere else and never will, but they work for that one role.
But if you need to go out hunting at some point now, you're set.
Well, I'm in my apartment, so I never pulled the.
Oh, fair point. Fair point.
I can't hit anything.
No real world applications. fair point.
I'll get the arrow knocked, but that's not the hard part. We were shooting Troy, and because Chris does everything in camera, if you see 1,000 people in a battle, there are 1,000 people there. There's no computer.
No CGI.
There's no CGI, and so. We were shooting this scene, and there's literally 1,200 people, and a guy runs by me. He's on fire, and Hoyta's behind me with the camera, our cinematographer. Yeah. He's got the IMAX handheld over on his shoulder, and Odysseus is taking this all in, and he's following me as Odysseus is seeing all this stuff, and a building's on fire. It comes crashing down, and then we hear cut, and everything stops, and Hoyta puts the camera down, and he turns to me and he goes, this is a flashback. It just took more, and it took more out of our family, and they had to, we've always had a 2-week rule. This was the first time that we ever had to violate it. There was stretches of 3.5 weeks, and we were just away from each other. So it was a big sacrifice for them, and as it was hard on us, and I'm so proud of the movie, but I'm so proud of them for really encouraging me. They knew what it. I feel like my whole professional life built up to this experience, and they were really on board with me doing it, and I love them for that.
All right, The Odyssey, which is distributed by our sister company, Universal Pictures, sails into theaters this weekend, and our thanks to Craig for that conversation. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now, but stay with us. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.